The longest lizard ever reliably measured was not a Komodo dragon. It was a water monitor recorded in Sri Lanka, and it came in at 10.5 feet. That is longer than any wild Komodo dragon anyone has ever put a tape measure against. So, if you have been telling these two apart by size, the method has a hole in it. Here is what actually works. The Asian water monitor is a large, semi-aquatic lizard found from India across Southeast Asia, and it is the second heaviest lizard alive, behind only the Komodo dragon. A typical wild adult runs 5 to 7 feet from nose to tail tip and weighs somewhere between 7 and 15 pounds. The big ones reach 55. It swims, and it swims well. The tail is flattened from side to side, which turns it into a paddle. It climbs. It eats fish, frogs, rodents, birds, crabs, snakes, and turtles. And it will take crocodile eggs and young crocodiles when it can reach them. It also eats carrion, which is one of several habits it shares with the animal it keeps getting mistaken for. And that mistaking is not a rare event. It happens constantly in stock photo libraries, in news articles, in tourist videos, and in museum captions. Which is worth fixing because once you know where to look, it takes about a second. Start with the pattern, because it settles most cases on its own. A water monitor is dark, and across that dark background it carries rows of pale yellow spots and bands, arranged in regular lines running across the body. Neat, repeating, deliberate looking. A Komodo dragon has none of that. It is gray to dull brown and essentially plain. No rows, no bands, no pattern worth the name. So here's the rule, and it is close to foolproof. If you can see regular yellow markings, it is not a Komodo dragon. That one test resolves the overwhelming majority of misidentified photographs you will ever come across. If the animal is wet, or caked in mud, or too far away to read, go to the head instead. A Komodo dragon's head is broad and blunt, with a heavy jaw and thick, loose skin hanging under the chin. A water monitor's head is narrow and tapers to a point. Then check the legs. The Komodo dragon stands on limbs like pillars, thick the whole way down. The water monitor's legs are slim. One is built like a bulldozer, the other is built like a runner. And one more, if the tail is visible. A water monitor's tail is flattened from side to side, like a blade, because it is a swimming tool. A Komodo dragon's tail is round, heavy, and muscular, and it gets used for balance and for hitting things. Same basic animal, two completely different jobs. Now, back to the size problem, because this is where nearly every comparison goes wrong. The largest wild Komodo dragon ever properly measured came to a fraction over 10 feet. The largest water monitor on record, that Sri Lankan animal, was 10.5. On length alone, the water monitor takes it. Then put them on a scale. That record Komodo dragon weighed around 180 pounds. Wild adult males average about 150, which is a grown man. The heaviest water monitors anybody has reliably weighed top out near 55 pounds, and the average adult sits far below that, often under 15. Same length, 3 times the mass, and frequently much more. All of that difference lives in the build, in the width of the skull, the depth of the chest, the thickness of the limbs. Length will tell you almost nothing here. Bulk will tell you everything. And there is something counterintuitive hiding inside that bulk. Modeling work on the Komodo dragon's skull found it to be surprisingly light, and its bite force surprisingly weak for an animal of that mass. It is not built to crush. It is built to grip and pull, which is a very different way of taking an animal apart, and it matters more than you would think when we get to the last chapter. There is a second assumption worth removing, which is the idea that these animals live in different places and therefore cannot be confused in the field. One subspecies of the water monitor lives on Flores and on Sumbawa. Those are the same islands that hold Komodo dragons. The two species genuinely share ground. They walk the same beaches, and they feed from the same carcasses. So the confusion is not purely a matter of photographs looking alike. In parts of Indonesia, both animals are actually standing there. And there is a small, odd detail buried in the measurements. Water monitors vary a great deal by island. On Java, they average around 7 feet. On Sumatra, closer to 5.5. On Flores, the island they share with Komodo dragons, they average under 5. The smallest water monitors in the region live in exactly the place where the largest lizard on Earth also lives. Whether one thing is causing the other has never been demonstrated, so hold that as an observation and not as an explanation. They are both monitors, and they sit in the same genus. That much is true. And it explains the shared body plan, the forked tongue, the long neck, the particular rolling walk both animals have. But the family tree underneath is not what the resemblance suggests. The water monitor belongs to an Asian group of monitors, a cluster of closely related water-going species spread across Southeast Asia and the Philippines. The Komodo dragon does not belong to that group at all. Its nearest living relatives are the big goannas of Australia and New Guinea, and the oldest fossils of the species come out of eastern Australia rather than Indonesia. So the two animals standing on the same beach on Flores are not close cousins who split from each other locally. They are the far ends of two entirely separate journeys that happen to arrive at the same island from opposite directions. The resemblance between them is mostly a matter of both being monitors, and monitors have been building the same body for a very long time. Which brings us to the messiest part of the comparison, and the part where I need to be careful with you. Both species carry glands in the lower jaw that produce venom compounds. That much is anatomy, and nobody disputes it. For the Komodo dragon, there is a substantial body of work arguing those compounds do real work during a hunt, interfering with clotting and pushing blood pressure down in an animal that has already been badly opened up. For the water monitor, the picture is far thinner. You will find sources, including official wildlife pages run by national agencies, stating flatly that venom is the main cause of death in the prey of monitor lizards. That statement goes further than the evidence does. The researchers who push back on it make a practical argument that is hard to wave away. Monitors kill most of their prey considerably faster than any venom could plausibly act. A water monitor takes something small, bites it, shakes it, and swallows it whole. There is no waiting period for a toxin to do anything, because the animal is already dead from being handled. So the honest summary is this: the glands are real, the compounds are real. What they are actually for in this particular species is still being argued over, and anyone who tells you it is settled is telling you more than we currently know. Now the ending. And it is not the one a comparison like this usually arrives at. The Komodo dragon is listed as endangered. Somewhere between 3,000 and 3,500 are left, spread across 4 small islands and 1 stretch of coastline. The water monitor is listed as least concern, and the reason is worth sitting with for a moment. It has not survived by keeping away from us. It moved in. There are water monitors in the canals of Bangkok, in the parks and drains of Singapore, in gardens and construction sites and reservoirs across South and Southeast Asia. It swims through cities. It eats what cities produce. It is one of the most successful large predators anywhere on the planet, and it manages that while surrounded by millions of people. That said, least concern is not the same as untouched. Water monitors are harvested in enormous numbers for the leather trade, and the animals taken are the large ones because the large ones are worth more. A species can be genuinely abundant and still be under constant pressure. The label describes the population. It does not describe the individuals. So of the 2 lizards in this video, the famous one, the one with the documentaries and the national park, and the name that sounds like something out of a legend, is the one in trouble. The one that keeps getting mistaken for it is doing perfectly well. If you take one thing away from this, take the pattern. Regular yellow markings mean it is not a Komodo dragon, and that single check will catch nearly every wrong caption you will ever run into. Everything else, the build, the head, the mass, is confirmation after the fact. And I would like to know how many of you have run into this mistake out there. A documentary, a museum label, a stock photo on a news article? Tell me where you saw it, because I found 3 while making this series, and I doubt that is unusual. Every animal in this story is somebody's parent, somebody's mate, somebody's kin, including the one that almost never gets its name right. Look after the ones who are yours. From Wildscape, where nature tells its story.